Yes.
Hi everyone. We're here today, this afternoon. I'm here with Kerry.
Yes.
Hi Kerry, how's everything?
I'm doing good. What about yourself?
I'm doing great.
Good.
How was your holidays?
Oh, fantastic.
We know Kerry had a great time because our holiday video is up and you can see the rare occasion that she actually goes up and dance.
Oh, yeah.
We got you in there
That was
dancing.
rare.
Did you have a good time?
No, that was a good holiday party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to meet her boyfriend. He's a big guy, actually from my son's alma mater, Farrell High School.
Yes.
Right. He's a former Farrell High School football player, correct?
Yeah, really good football player too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's it. I'm embarrassing her. It's okay.
No.
It's okay, Carrie.
No.
We're letting the world know. But this is going to be, and if you don't know Carrie, Carrie's the one you always see on the screen doing our stats videos.
Yes.
So she's expanding her horizons. She's actually doing full reporting, and that's the next step of this journey. So the big thing we're going to be talking about is Carrie's going to have some information about numbers, and if anybody saw our previous live, it wasn't your first live.
Yeah.
You're a little more comfortable now.
Yeah.
You can tell she's got the mojo going on. But anyway, it's Johanna's on, so she'd say hello to Johanna. You can't, Johanna, you'll be here tomorrow. You'll be on. I know we didn't do the preview. We will be addressing that. We got kind of busy, and I was a little bit tired yesterday. So
That happens.
yeah, but the stats. We were talking quickly how this year's stats are quite a tale, and it's a tale of two markets. So let's get into that. The biggest thing that you've noticed, right, is doing those stats. What do you see most of? What are you doing?
Oh, that everything's just down.
Yeah.
Down ever since.
Her finger is always in this direction, and one day she's actually to get to the point where it's this way, and that's the kind of market.
I'd be like, this is weird. Like,
yeah, yeah. It's like, okay, this is really happening.
Yeah.
So it will, and like everything else in real estate, long term everything always works out. Stocks, whatever else. It's kind of like, how do you say it's like one of the things like just hold on because it gets better. But the big thing is that should not be, and I'm going to be very forward with you as far as like what we're going to get into stats, but I want to make sure we get the context of the meaning of why you shouldn't worry as a seller in this market that you're not getting premium price. And we've touched on this, and I want to make sure we're very clear about it, is you have to look at the fact that everybody is buying and selling in the same market, okay? So let's not get involved so much in numbers to the point where like I'm buying high, selling high, and selling high and buying low. This is not stocks. Eventually, it's the place you live. So when you talk about consequently, I always talk about move up buyers or move. The timing these things generally never work. And I think that there's some parameters here that I think, some people like talking about the crashes and things like that. Now, on a fundamental level, I will tell you, I'm not really comfortable with some of these numbers as far as being a real estate professional who's done this for a long time. That these things are definitely they're disconcerting to a certain degree, but that is buffered by the one thing that we're going to get to in this report, and you'll know when you get there because you're going to make you watch to get to that point what I'm talking about. So I want you to stay tuned. So we're not going to give all those.
Yes.
You can't leave all the cookies out on the table.
No.
We got to save some in the back for you to watch. But
yeah.
So let's. You have some questions and you formulated, and we're going to get into those questions, and we're going to cross the T's, dot the I's, and make sure you get in the know about where this market is heading, because I think that's where everybody's mind is at. So this is the most, I will say, before, and not to put it, no pressure here.
Oh, no.
No pressure.
Okay.
This is probably the most interesting report that I've done in 10 years.
Oh.
So that's how significant this report is.
No
And
pressure.
it pays to watch this one because this is the first time I've seen something that I haven't seen in a long time. but that shouldn't scare you, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. So go ahead, Carrie. It's all on you. Your first question's up, so let's get to it.
Okay, so the first thing that I noticed when looking at these stats is that the days on the market are up 19% from last month.
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I mean, well, we kind of know a little bit why that is, but this isn't, now, Carrie's talking about the days on the market, obviously. That's how much time it takes for a house that's placed on the market to actually get from contract to sale. So that has been on the incline now for quite a few months. This is the most dramatic in the last 6 months. So it's a consequence of what I call interest rate shock. So interest rate shock has set in. So we're looking at a snapshot of home sales that have actually technically consummated about 45 to 90 days prior to the sale. So we're looking backwards here. Okay, so let's make that clear. So we're looking backwards into the past, into the, let's say, the October market, November. So we're in January, so about there. So those houses, but it's been precipitously on the incline. So the one thing that days on the market is telling us is that obviously interest is low. Interest, and there's no doubt about it. We're not going to skirt around this. Interest generally, because of interest rates, has been lower than we expect. So, and I'm going to tell you why that's not important in a little bit. So the bottom line is it's just indicative that it's taking, as part of a market consequence of things, interest rates being what it is, it's taking a little bit longer for houses that are on the market. And I'm going to be honest with you folks, that's actually very low. I've done reports for many years. This is year 10 of doing these. You could go through YouTube and I've been doing these for years. And it's like it's like 100 days or more was generally the average. So the fact we're still at 70 is still very indicative to me that things are pretty okay in that realm. Yeah. You're not waiting a long time to sell, still.
Well, yeah.
So you have another question for me?
Yes. So there are more active listings this December rather than last December 2021.
Right.
It's up 4.4%.
So active listings are up, right?
Yeah, active listings are up.
Yeah, well, the active listings, again, what's happening is that for the first time, this is not unusual, and December is a typical month where we would call inventory max out. So basically, January is like the lowest month of inventory of homes for sale in general. But we've seen an uptick in the amount of listings by 4.4%. That's island-wide on the Staten MLS. So the thing is that the new listings, and she's making it clear, I just want to make sure you're clear, the new listings that she's talking about is actually people who are actually putting their house on the market, not existing homes that have been on for a period of time. It's not like how many houses are actually on the market, how many new listings are coming on the market is up 4.4%.
Yeah, 4.4%.
So people are rushing. I call it, they sense things aren't going that great, and we call it the rush to the door. Now, this is an important thing, and we need to monitor that quickly, because this is where we get into a critical phase of the market, where I talk about there comes points in markets where people's financials don't start breaking down. They break down over a period of time. So a lot of times what happens is people are in the foreclosure process or lost a job or consequently they're not doing as well, not paying mortgage. They tend to wait to the last minute. So we do watch new listings as more of them coming on the market as distress sales. There's more people distressed putting their house on the market, and that's why that's happening. Or there are people still moving in the sense they're still trying to move up and try to capitalize on whatever the market gains have been, and they're trying to lock in the best price they can sooner than later. But I'm going to be honest with you. I don't see that being a significant number as far as the amount of days on the market being concerned. 77, it's all within what I consider in line with the market being on what I call on the stable side. We're still on that's not a destabilizing number. If the average new listings were starting to creep up above maybe 6% to 10% year over year or month over month, we'd have to look at the stats and data and say, well, what is this indicative of? Is it more financial distress sales coming on, short sales stuff coming on? These are things that we could have to pay attention to and see what exactly the market, how the market's kind of responding. But there is things in here that, show you that the economics of real estate are not a premium, but it's okay. I think at the end of the day, I'm going to get into why these stats shouldn't really freak anybody out in terms of what they need to do with their home selling decision. So let's get on to the next one.
Yes. So new listings haven't been in like the 200s, yes. Like 200 new listings, right. Since last December. So right. That's a long time.
Yes.
From last December.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, I think what you're looking at, when you're looking at new listings, it's definitely, we consistently look at this as being a factor, and we're going to almost piggyback off the last thing. We're going to look at those numbers and suggest that there's a little bit of a rush to the gates in that sense. So there are, there are definitely some people that are looking to move faster than others. But, I think at the end of the day, we'll piggyback on the last thing that it's something we'll be monitoring, I think, in the next report and see exactly how things are transpiring with new listings and seeing how that kind of comes about. But I'm telling you right now that as far as new listings and inventory being concerned, I don't think anybody should be in a process of feeling too concerned that, we're going to be, the market valuations are going to take too much of a hit because of the amount of homes that are actually for sale at the given moment. So it's not something that I'm going to be primarily focused on, except to piggyback most of that on what I just said in the last thing. This is where we really get to the dicey stuff.
So
get ready for this one. This is the doozy.
Active listings are down 8% from November to December.
Right. So this is so active listings, and not even the average sale price is also down.
Oh, 6%
from last month and 8% over the last 3.
Yeah.
So we have. So this is the crazy thing. This is not something that I've seen. Okay. So for the first time since doing reporting in probably some time, an 8% drop has been recorded on home sales on Staten Island. So the average sale price is down for the first time in a while. As a matter of fact, out of the last, just to give you a snapshot, it is that the average sale price as of the last report was at $659,000. Okay, and of the last 8 months, that's the first time it's really dropped below 700. So it's actually there was a little dip back in August under 700, barely at 670. But if you talk about consecutive months, it's a pretty precipitous drop in 8% of the average sale price from just 2 months ago, which was at 718,238. Again, it's down to 659. So it was the first time we've seen the drop. Now, the funny thing is that what kind of gets me a little bit concerned about that number per se is that volumes are down. So the volume of home sales has also precipitously declined over that period of time. And that's where sold volumes, this is the 6 consecutive months of volume sale declines. Okay, so this is definitely a trend. The trend is broken to the point where we could basically say we broke our support line. And if you're into stocks, you know what that means. You know what's being held as support, and basically what we're seeing for the first time in a while. The real estate market has broken support to the downside. So like it's like a sustainable number when you talk about 6 months in a row of declines, and the dip in this particular fashion. We're basically looking at a first time in a while. The chart is not very appealing looking. It's a little bit. We were talking about being ugly. So basically, prices are back down to they were about August of 2021. So it's not horrible in terms of like values that have declined. So it's down, and I just want to be. There's a couple of things that I don't want. And being this is such a very drastic report that I've done in a while, I gotta make more clarifications because I think I don't want to create a sense of confusion about things. So when we talk about average sale price decline in percentages terms, everything is a test. So when you're doing averages, the sample size has to be large enough to say, okay, is it a trend or is it a long-term trend or is it a short-term? In the short term, based upon the prior months, it's definitely significant enough to say that it's a pretty big trend. Because I'm reading a chart now. Maybe we could actually put this chart up at some point. We'll get this chart up somewhere. Put it on like a blog. Put it on a blog. But it's definitely it's pronounced. So it shouldn't be dismissed as being nothing and a kind of an anomaly type of thing. So it's definitely down. We do want to monitor what's going to happen in the next 2 months, but again, I don't think that's cause for an alarm at 8%, even if it is a smaller sample size. So we talk about national averages. We talk about averages over an area. We're not talking about a large sample size. So this can be skewed to a certain degree based on the number of homes that are actually sold to give us an average. So I don't necessarily get too focused in on it, but I will tell you that is something that we are paying attention to for our sellers, and we're out there. It is the steepest decline I think I've seen in some time. 8%. 8% drop in real estate values in this period, 2 months is.
That's.
Yeah, I mean you get that in stocks, and you can say, okay, well it's not too bad. It's like real estate's. It's not the most positive news that I've given in a while, but again, I think all things being relative, it's not something to be too overly concerned about. And I love people to say, well, it's a bad time to sell. I mean, I'm gonna make sense of all this for you later and kind of break down what this exactly means if you are going on the market, because I think if you're dealing with competent professionals in this business, they're going to understand the dynamics of what you're operating in and give you the best suggestions as to how to proceed with a successful sale and transfer of where you really want to move to. And in some respects, doing this for 18 years, people actually do better in this market than they do when the market's like this and straight up. And it all has to do with what we call perceptual. Fear is like a weird thing about how people respond when they see things that are down,
Yeah, they panic.
Just like you. When I tell her to do it, we're going to do it. We did live the first time. She's definitely more calm.
Yeah, I was shaking.
Yeah.
But this list price is down 0.1% from November too.
Right.
What do you think about that?
I think that's pretty. So it's down 0.1%, and then what do we have? It's down from 97, from 97.1 to 97.
Yeah. That's
basically. So home sellers. This is where home sellers are giving a 3% discount on average on their list price. Mm-hmm. The thing that makes that interesting is where it was 98.5, right? A year ago?
Yeah, a year ago it was 98.5. This year it's 97%.
Yeah.
So it's
coming down.
Yeah.
So sellers are willing to negotiate more. So at the end of the day, we look at that. That's what we call a leading indicator. And we've talked about leading indicators. Leading indicators will tell us sales to list price ratio is what we call a good, decent leading indicator in the market. So what we try to do is when you talk about leading indicators, we want to see how that trends, because basically what will happen is over a period of time, if you see that list of sale price ratio dropping, like from that one time it was 101 and it's going down to 100 or down to 97, 96, 95. Just so you know, I've been doing this for a while. I remember when those numbers were at 92. So it was 92. Yeah, there was big discounts, 8%, almost 8%. I don't know if it ever got to 92. It was close. But I mean, but it just means that, buyers have some options, which is why it isn't the worst time to be a buyer in this market, or a seller, to be honest with you, if you're buying and selling. And I'll tell you how that strategy works a little bit further down the road. I just want to make sure you just stay along with this, because it's really good to know how this plays into your moving and how you could actually do this successfully and actually be on top of the game.
Mm-hmm. The sale to list price has been going down consecutively since June 2022.
Yes. So I think it's showing that, you mentioned that it's like we were talking a little bit before, that one factor is that there have been signs of weakness starting to appear. So you say it's been since June. Yeah. Like, I do think there was also just, there was a little buyer fatigue in the market. I think, this is a combination of a little bit of buyer fatigue, over accelerated price home values, and runaway kind of they get to point to exuberance. And I'm going to be honest with you, of all the things that I've actually done and performed well, real estate is compared to my Apple stock, which, or everybody's Apple stock or Tesla or whatever you're using. This is actually pretty good. So let's put it there. But there was weakness. Let's not call it what we saw going. I never liked to see what I saw with bidding, the type of bidding wars we were getting into prior to June. And we did start seeing, a fundamental slowdown around the summertime of this year. So there has been, even before, there was a little bit of interest rate hikes around that time, and it's been precipitously happening since then. We're going to see, we saw the trends kind of break somewhat in that direction since June, and that was a buyer fatigue situation. Buyers were basically being priced out of the market. A 0.4 or 0.2% change in interest rates pulled them right out of the market. So we did start seeing fatigue. You add fatigue onto interest rates that have really skyrocketed and have settled back down. So people, they've settled down. So it's definitely not quite as bad as people would suggest as far as where the interest rates are now. I think of last report, I've seen them as low. I've seen them drop below 6. So it's definitely, some of them are in the 6s. But I have seen some actually jumbo rates under 6, like 5.8. So it's not the worst thing in the world.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I noticed when I was looking at the stats for this is that the active volume is down 9.22% from last month.
Right.
So in November it was 1.3 billion.
Right.
And now it's 1.2 billion.
Right. Again, So what we're talking about is the total collection of value of the homes that have sold. So again, the volumes have been precipitously on the decline. This is up. So again, I think we're looking at a 6-month period of declines going back to June. June was a pretty good, healthy month as far as closed sales were concerned, and it has dropped precipitously in some time. So, we're looking at this number here, we're kind of looking here. I mean, it's, but we're talking about volumes. The volumes of home sales in the last few months have been, respectively to the amount of inventory has been in line. So I think when we're talking about, between 1,500, 1,400 homes for sale, 300, there's about, so she's actually talking about the actual volume of value of the homes that sold. And when I go into this, I'm talking about specific numbers. So when you start, my big threshold for a healthy market on Staten Island specifically is like 300 home sales. So 300 home sales is like what I call a very big breakneck. So I've been doing this since 2008, and you'd be shocked that we used to do, February is typically the least closed time, and I've seen those numbers under 200 sales for the entire island. So it'd be like 100 and I think I saw one time it was like 198 sales, 196 sales back in 2010. It was not the most pleasant scene in the world, but it took about from 2008 to 2010, it took about 2 years before the market started trickling back up. And I'm going to make something clear here. This is nothing similar, and I think the one thing that I want to make this very clear, what makes this market different from that market is when in 2008 there were about 4,000 houses on the market when 2008 struck.
Okay.
So there was 4,000 houses on the market. So when there was options, then there's value. So if you see, so this is where these stats become skewed. Yeah. Yeah, what do we have? What was the last? What was the amount we have now? So we have about 1,500 and 1,564. So 1,500 houses on the market now compared to 4,000. Yeah. So it's like, how do you say? Yeah, there's fewer buyers, but there's fewer choices. So so let's not get ahead of ourselves here and start thinking like we're anywhere in this. And I tend to watch the people like things when they don't understand real estate stats in terms of how we're what I call the supply demand curve kind of moves. And it's very important to understand this, that when you look at these supply demand curves, it's like, where are we positioned within that curve? And I think that's where people get this wrong. That if you don't understand what just by saying the market's down, the market's up, is not significant enough to tell you this is the time of anything. It's how these numbers are interpreted in the sense of the historical context of which you're reading them. And I'm getting a little deep there. So it's like this is why when you're dealing with real professionals, they understand conceptually where the market is and how to position yourself within it without panicking or doing something irrational based on, we watch too much TikTok. And I think the problem, we have TikTok, and you can go check out TikTok. You guys do some pretty interesting stuff on there.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah. So the big thing is when you're talking about this one thing, you're really looking at it and saying, okay, how do we interpret the data? The data suggests that with only 1,500 houses on the market and the volume of sales, there is not much context to the argument that there's a big downside to this market, and you're making a big mistake by believing that that's coming. I don't see that happening, and folks, this isn't the first time in the last 10 years that I think in 2018 there was some kind of prediction like this. Mortgage rates went up. Soon as things kind of get dicey, the mortgage reversed themselves, and then what happened is the next thing that happens is that you get this swing again. It's just timing this out. But I do believe, and I'm going to give you my prediction right here, is that you may see the next 2 months a little shaky, but I believe at the end of the day, gas prices are down significantly. A lot of the inflationary pressures that were on what we call the macro economy are starting to release. So I do believe at some point we're actually starting to see what I call the first breaks or cracks in that inflationary cycle. So it's starting to break. So it's like a small fever, and it needed to break, and then we're going to get back to normal. So I do see in the next 2 months that, based upon, and I've been doing this a long time, so I have some insights into this, that you have about a 2-month window here, things kind of shake out, and I do believe that based upon volume of houses on the market, you should not be concerned about prices falling too precipitously. And here's the problem. Again, if you don't have people that understand what they're doing with this, you make a lot of bad decisions. let's call it for what it is. The bad decisions that are going to be made are going to be, I could time this out, and you're not. It's not going to happen, and most people railroad themselves into this belief system. I've done it a million times, and I have more tales at a dinner table about when they should. Oh, I should have sold back when I should have sold back. No, it never works out that way, and nobody really has a crystal ball. A lot of it to the degree that you understand stats, or the person you're using understands stats, not just TikToks, because TikToks, you have to read things like this and figure out things like this and look at numbers that we've been looking at for 10 years. So I've been looking at for 10 years. You're kind of fresh to this, but I just know what this is going to be interpreted as. So let's go with that. Mm-hmm. So, do we have anything else going on there? Or that's the mainstay? That's pretty much the game, right? For now?
Yeah.
So what do you think of this market?
Ugly.
we kind of talked about that a bit. I would say that it was ugly, but it's not. Okay.
No.
So let's get to the one thing before we go is what this means for you as consumers, and what this means for you as sellers, what this means for you as anybody who's just an onlooker, right? We're going to get to the bottom of this. Folks, this is not any concern, I think, for any buyer or seller to the degree. Everybody will get into the market with the idea that you're going to time things out right. So, for the people that are moving up in value, there is no better time to do so than this moment right now. I could tell you stories of people who I sold in 2008 and they moved to Florida. Mm-hmm. And the house appreciation there, I don't even know, the Patrons who I sold, one of my first sales, and it was a bad situation at the time. Lovely people, helped them out with that. Uh-huh. They sold here what they thought was giving it away, and they bought in Florida for like $78,000. They bought a gated community in Naples, Florida. The house is now worth $700,000, and the house that they have now still hasn't appreciated anywhere near to that degree. So the funny thing is, like, can the best be made of a bad market? The bottom is the people that are moving up. If you're moving up, folks, and you're in a semi-attached or a townhouse, this is it. Okay, yeah, you may not get as much for your house as you did 3 months ago, but you're sure as heck not paying what you were going to pay back when. Oh. And the difference in what I call the cost effectiveness of your purchasing power is all the relativity that you need to know. So you got to stop with the house. I'm waiting for the market to go up. You're waiting for the market to go up to pay a higher price regardless. And it's like, okay, well, we have 3 kids and we're in a 2-bedroom townhouse. And how do I going to move if I don't make a certain amount of money? Meanwhile, the discount could be had at no greater amount than if you moved up and said to yourself in a not so hot market. Because let's face it, if the market was, let's say it is 8%. Mm-hmm. Let's just say for the record, right. 8% of $1 million versus 8% of $400,000. Who's taking the bigger loss? And money-wise, obviously the $1 million property, right? So you have to think of things in context. Why are you doing this? Why do people move? If you're playing the game to say, I'm going to do better this way, I'm going to do better. And I'm going to be honest with you, at the end of the day, most people, they're going to find the last place they're going to live in, and that's going to be the last thing. You're not taking your house with you. Levy, let's ring the bell on that. Your house does not go with you to the next. So, you have to be comfortable where you live. And I think the problem with too much of this is it's become so much financials to the degree that people don't really if you're sacrificing your sanity or your living standards for 4%, you're selling yourself cheap. Yeah. So you got to stop. You got to stop with that stuff. And I tell people this all the time. You're cutting, and it's what we call the best thing is when you get the people who say, I expected $1 million, and they're like, I got to cut my price, $80,000 to sell. I lost $80,000. No. No, you didn't. You never had $80,000. You basically gave your own offer in your mind, and that offer wasn't met. So, and this is the part what I call the psychological warfare that goes on internally with sellers who expect a certain amount of money and think that that's the thing that sets their whole entire like path in where they're going to live in for the next 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Like, we got to get out of that type of thinking, because this is, at the end of the day, the part of the value equation that you really need to look at with housing is utility value, which is, you got to live in it. So, and it's like, you know, it's like, I don't know, some people's like, you gotta live with your spouse, right? For somebody, and there's no value when you sell them. Or whatever it may be. So it's not like you got to turn them in at some time. At one point, you know. So it's like, guys, let's not I think we overanalyze things to the point of, oh, we're gonna wait. It's like, there's been so many missteps in this, and this is I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah. Stop
with that stuff, please. You're gonna save yourself a lot of aggravation, because it's always. I've never seen so many experts on timing the market when it was their first buy. It's like, I know it's gonna go down. You have never bought a house, so I don't know. You know, I'm sorry, Google is just not enough, and it's just not enough to know where trend lines go, and whether you're gonna make an extra 8% while paying an apartment and dealing with banging people in the next room or whatever it may be, and say to yourself, what am I investing in here?
No, yeah.
You know? Mm-hmm. So I'm sure at one point when you get married, maybe. No, I'm only kidding. I'm telling you. I really am. I don't know why I'm shaking this table.
It's
like,
so
but it's like, what's going to happen next for you? So I think what you want to do is, at the end of the day, understand that this process is not about monetary gain or loss as much as you want to make it. So it's got to be fundamental to your living needs. And if you're not doing that, I think most people, they live in situations out of the ideals without understanding that the fundamentals are where you're going to live, right? So let's call it for what it is.
Yes.
And let's not get ahead of ourselves in terms of what happens if I have to discount my house 4% and say to myself, I'm going to make a livelihood out of that. It's not enough to change your... Considering the fact that you'd probably spend more on your wedding than you'd give up. The price of weddings now
they're crazy.
$100,000.
They're crazy.
But you'll give that up for one night. But you'll have memories. And I always say to myself, wow, real estate's a fun game. It's really where you prioritize things. So let's not worry about stats to the degree. You're doing this because you really want to build a life and not think about home value. Like, you're not going to think about home value when you're having your first kid.
No, yeah.
Right?
Think about your kid.
You think about the kids, you think about what you're going to do, you think about what you're going to decorate, you think about what you're doing with this house. But, you know, it makes for good storylines, and it makes for good, talk around the table. Oh, you know, the real estate market, I'm going to wait 3 years, I'm going to wait 2 years. I'm going to wait for things to go up. And consequently, what you're going to do is most people mistime the market. They usually, by the time they get the right information that they need to sell, or it's on the ascent, they usually do it after everybody's gotten to the ascent part of the equation. It's already on the downslope. There's so many mistakes in this business. I could probably sell a book on.
You should.
Yeah, on like the miscues of real estate. But the big thing is why you're doing it. Understand why, and then you won't concern yourself about whether or not it's going to cost you 2, 3, 4% in home value appreciation or decline, maybe even 6%, and say to yourself, you know, I'm going to live cramped style lifestyle just for my home value to go up that much. But meanwhile, your wedding costs $75,000. And that's cheap. I'd rather go for 100.
Oh, no.
So it's like, you know, so let's keep things in perspective. That's our report. We'll be doing this next month. Carrie's definitely new, and she's excited to keep giving me the stats, and we're going to keep her in the wheelhouse on this. So, so what do you expect for next month? I'm going to throw around the bus here.
Next month, I think it's not going to go. I think it's gonna be down again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such prediction. So what's your position from Kerry?
That's all I know.
I
started.
Put her on the spot. But it's good. But anyway, folks, that's us. Thank you, Kerry.
Thank you.
And hopefully, if you have a question about where things are headed, you definitely leave them in the comment section. Drop us a line, and we'll get you the right information about where things are going.
We'll get back to you.
All right. So that's it.
Yes.
All right, Kerry. Thank you for doing this, and
Yes,
we'll see you
of
next month.
Bye, guys.